Hello, my name is Cindy McKinney, and I'm with Region 8, and welcome to Teaching to the Heart in the Online Classroom. Today, we are joined by Chris Riley, who's going to share a little bit about this topic with us. Chris, tell us a little bit more about you and what you hope we're going to get out of today's session.
Well, I want to also say welcome and hello, and that I'm glad that you're joining us today. Just to give you a little bit of my background, I spent 32 years in an intermediate classroom. I spent 8 years as a literacy and professional development coordinator, K-12. I've been active on various literacy boards in the state, and I also helped develop and co-wrote an MAT for a local university, the University of St. Francis, where I still teach and act as a curriculum development and professor. And I'm continuing to present workshops. The ones that I'm really enjoying are the ones that I do with my team there at Region 8, you, Cindy, and Dr. Josh Wenning, who's been an extreme help in helping us get going. And Mike Gorman and Jane Gorman and Laura Smith, I think they might even be listening in today. So I want to thank them. I also want to thank the Schwab Foundation for the grant that makes this work and our Makerspace professional development possible. And just to let you know, my teammates and I are going to be doing a series of webinars like this one to help with professional development as we work with our current situation in education, which is certainly unusual. And again, we appreciate the support of you, Cindy, and Dr. Josh Wenning, and all the others there at Region 8 that help us. So our goals for today, I've really split this webinar up into 3 parts. And part 1 is to really get into and recognize where we are now. We're in this unusual situation with the COVID-19 virus that has demanded that all of us are teaching online. And so I want to first start off with honoring where you are and what you're dealing with in your teaching lives at this time. And to be honest, to help you feel at ease with unease. Part 2, then we're going to get into some things we should consider. So as teachers, what should we be considering given the circumstances that we're in right now and given what could come? And we really don't know that. We could be out of school till May, or we could be out of school for another year. We really don't know. So we want to be thinking about that and considering that as we work through the webinar. Education for us has surely changed, and what we do need to be doing with our students and as educators and our teams and our administrators, we want to kind of talk through that a bit today. Excuse me. We also need to be intentional that we are addressing both the heart and the mind as we consider the what and the how of our work as online teachers. And then part 3, we want to think about the heart and pedagogy and think about the transformation that means. So what's the priority for our students? We need to include our parents. How are we delivering this instruction online, and what do we need to consider for ourselves as the adult teachers? What should we consider as we think about our students? And what should we consider as key as we transform our pedagogy to online teaching? So part 1, where we are now. Well, transformation, we're living it. This concept means a process of profound and, for many of us, radical change that orients us in a totally new direction. Transformation is often dramatic. That's part of the definition. And this change in our personal and professional life certainly has been dramatic. And even something as simple for us as adults, buying toilet paper and disinfectant wipes and sanitizer for the hands, masks and whether or not to wear those keep us online sometimes for hours, or if we're able to go out to stores searching for just these items that we were able to take for granted not long ago. Also, our teaching lives and the lives that we're all part of educating children have also transformed dramatically. Most of us are teaching in some manner from home only. We no longer can draw that curtain that many of us draw between our home lives and our personal lives. An example would be my daughter-in-law teaches math at a high school, and she has 3-year-old twins. And while she was online teaching, one of those went and dumped a very precious roll of toilet paper into the toilet, thereby ruining the toilet paper. Well, normally that would be no big deal. Right now it was, and it disrupted her day. So those are things that you're all dealing with if you have family living with you and you're not able to just sit alone and share your thinking and your work as a teacher. We, as those who will be part of this harbinger of transformation, have the opportunity, though, to take education and even daily instruction and the concept, that total concept of what it means to be a teacher, to an entirely new level of effectiveness. And that in and of itself can be pretty exciting. Today is the 50th anniversary of the splashdown of the Apollo 13 space flight, and that was really pretty important because those 3 astronauts ended up in space and things weren't going very well. And at one point, an engineer dumped some stuff out on a table and said, "Hey, all, have at it, bring them home." And this is all they have to work with. And that's kind of where we are. We've Apollo 13, an entire education system or a way to teach. And for many of us, we did it in less than a week. And like those working to save the astronauts, you've been given whatever your district could be providing you and told, like in the movie, and we got to come through and we got to find a way to make this fit into that hole and let's get organized. And so we have. And many of us, again, in as little a time span as a week. So when we're thinking about where we are, COVID and its effect on our society is demanding that we reevaluate so much of our lives. We are trying to be okay for those we live with and those we serve. And as adults, frankly, many of us aren't okay. We are struggling all day. We're trying to be superheroes to those we're caring for and working with, our families, our colleagues, our students. The gravity of this virus has taken a toll. So we must be realistic in our own expectations and yet hopeful that we can still make that profound difference in the lives of those kids we teach. So how do we get through this radical time in our lives? How do we transform what was part of our daily classroom life into one that is effective in the way that we have to proceed now? How do we keep our students engaged and learning? How do we meet the needs of those we care so much about? These are questions I'm seeing wherever I look and read and research. First of all, we must remember that we aren't in this alone. I know we hear that all the time, but we really aren't, even though there are days we might feel that way. All over the world, people are signaling that fact. And when I walk around my neighborhood, I see these bears that just send out warm and fuzzies to all of us and let us know that we're not alone, that they bring good tidings to us. Many of us are using different ways to communicate, ways that we never used before. And this presents us with so many options for building new ways to have relationships with our students and even with their parents. It gives us the opportunity to critically and creatively think and try transformations of our own teaching. And perhaps the silver lining is this is the opportunity for a renewal of understandings and perhaps even a renaissance in the educational systems. So part 2, what do we need to consider where we were and where we need to go next? So we went from being in a classroom to being online. In a classroom, we were able to give our full attention to our students. But now our personal life integrates with our professional life. There's, again, no drawing that curtain for many of you. You may be able to work alone, you may not. Your own children may be under your feet or in your lap when you're trying to teach. Many of us are trying to be both parent and teacher in the same hours, often without even another adult to help. And we often are still preparing our lessons and even assessing in those late night hours with no time to really do that or even just take a breath. From what I'm hearing from my teacher friends too, I think there are many of you that are sad because you not only are missing your students, you miss that sweet spot of the school year. And that was the time between February and late April when you really know your kids well. You really get what works for each kid and what doesn't. And you get to teach that day and you're full of gusto and vigor because you know you can come in and tackle what that child needs so he or she can grow. And even with this time out for standardized testing that often occurs at this time of year, this was the time and is the time that many teachers looked really forward to. So now we need to consider how we use this time online and to use that knowledge we have of our students and how we can adapt that knowledge to our digital platforms and our district norms, and to make sure we use the time we ask of our students by making it meaningful and caring in the instructional outcomes that we're expecting. Feeling alone. It is important to remember that when we go from the classroom to a totally online structure for delivery instruction, that our students do have different needs. Students have gone from an active social and student life to often facing hours at home alone. Many students have challenges that we are unaware of. There may be disparities of experience in what your students are dealing with that are affecting their ability to do the work that we're asking of them. Those new to the digital school, they may have compounded frustrations and anxieties as they learn to navigate platforms and websites and learning tools that are new to them and yet they're expected to use. Our older students are worrying about grades and college entry. They worry about their chances and if those are diminished, especially if they're in a district where the digital and learning world is new. They may feel that they're not up to speed or even able to compete with other students that are in more affluent areas where online learning or e-learning has been common. So now it's important for you to consider the value and importance of continuing the relationship building you do with your students from afar. You still need to be working to build what we call a brain compatible classroom. That means it's one where students feel valued and safe and cared for. You need to share yourself. Share and model what it means to be unsure, yet positive. You need to model that resilience and a healthy response to stress. By providing continuity to your students, you do give them a safe place to be, even if it's online. In other words, now your relationship with your students is more important than ever. And that brings us to part 3, the heart and pedagogy, a transformation. I'm a strong proponent of John Dewey. His wisdom is as relevant today as it was when he first started talking about what to expect and what the needs are in education. We must, even in this time of upheaval, understand that we have a new normal. We must now more than ever consider the world we are preparing our students for. And this thinking starts with our youngest children. We are today modeling adaptation, flexibility, patience, and perseverance. We must prepare our students for tomorrow and the means that we must consider now, well, how we're going to make that happen for our students. This is totally new territory for many districts, and even for those that had digital capabilities for students. A learning day here and there is different than e-learning for months and months. So what can we do to bring our students into this new system of how they're learning, and how can we help them transform their ideas and learning about how the world is now? These words came to me from the head of my university, and I so appreciated them. It's what our students need most right now. It's what we all need right now. We need to demonstrate mercy and grace and compassion and patience and empathy toward our students. What was normal in the classroom doesn't apply right now. Also from this university administrator came some thinking that I thought were relevant for us to consider as instructors because they're equally applicable to every level. So in thinking transformation, think about and have these discussions with your administrators or your teams or your departments, because these are questions that honor these conceptual words. What is our pedagogical adaptability going to look and sound like? How will we be creative in our pedagogical delivery? Will we prioritize pedagogical creativity? Will we focus on essential outcomes over the timelines that were previously important or set? And what are our curricular objectives given our current and upcoming situations? What's our policy toward grading and assessment? How will we be consistent in our delivery of quality instruction? And how will we communicate our transformative work to all our stakeholders? Hello. Your hello amounts to a mental health check-in for your students. And as you're transforming instruction, we can't forget the heart of it. We have to be in touch with our students. When we check in with them and we say hello, it's just like at the beginning of the normal school day when we had a classroom, we might greet them at the door. or do some kind of high five as they came to us. Again, you're still working to provide a brain compatible classroom, no matter what that classroom looks like. You're working to make sure there's predictability and consistency for your students. You're still wanting to build a culture of thinking and growth. You're still working with what you know about brain development of your students and what they need to feel safe and ready to learn. That's what's going to make transformational education successful. That communication with our students is still critical. They need that consistency of your simple hello. It literally makes their day. It's simple and it's of such great value to them, just like when you greeted them at the door or gave them a high five. So I was trained in highly effective teaching, and one of the things that we incorporated, and you can do this just as effectively in a digital classroom, is we had community circles. That was when we somehow, whether we sat on the floor or sat in a circle or sat at our desk, you can do it through whatever platform, Zoom, whatever you have access to, and we just talk. We don't rush into a normal school day at school, nor should we do that online. This can even be more important as we reinvent our new education because we're doing it on the fly. But we have to honor the hearts of those students we're teaching for anything else to really matter to them. Many teachers that would start the day, rush through, knew that sometimes you lost the kids before you ever got started. So I hope you can find a platform like Zoom or GoToMeeting or some other means that your administrators can provide so that you have that opportunity to actually see and converse with your students. And if you don't, then call them, write them, do something to make that community circle type connection. Let your students know you care. Tell them you miss them. You wonder how they are, and that you recognize that they even miss each other and their friends and activities at school. This could even be a digital entry or exit slip when you come into your online work. You could offer choices for your kids. You could start out like, I'm great today, or I'm struggling with, or could I communicate with you in private? Younger students could have faces to respond to. Take that check-in to know how your students are and do it regularly. If possible, it really helps families and students to know that there's a certain days and times that they will see and hear from you. This can be by, again, computer or by phone call, some form where they can see and or hear you. This makes a huge connection also into their connection to work. It's coming from you, their teacher, and their hearts and heads are connected to it because of that. This will also increase their feelings of safety. We know that with our brain work, that feelings of safety bring about the ability to learn. And connecting with important adults for them means that it's okay, even when things are critical. Again, this helps them feel stable. It helps bring normalcy to an unusual situation. Many are feeling fearful. It can help alleviate fear just to see you and be connecting with you. And remember, many miss you. You are an important part of their day. You're a familiar adult to them. And this can be a huge loss for them to not have you in their daily life. Your work with them and understanding of what they're able to do, given the specific circumstances that they're under and you're under, is important. I hear of some students that have 8 or more hours of work online a day. I hear of principals coming online to evaluate teacher instruction. Thank goodness I don't think that's happening here in Indiana. In one district, one-to-one was totally new, starting with the virus and the school shutdown. So to do digitally what we've always done in the regular school environment is limiting potential as well as barely not acknowledging the times they're in. If you do get to connect digitally daily, have digital procedures and routines, just like you do in your classroom. Knowing what to expect helps students feel comfortable and organized. They need to know when to come on and see you, where to find you, where assignments go, and how to turn in their projects and work. They need to practice that. If possible, have them log on at the same time again and have that opportunity to share. Even if it's digitally, just seeing each other's faces can mean so much. Another thing to consider is right now it might be normal for your students to be consumed by emotional reactions that are going on in the world. We adults are very emotional right now, and that plays over into the kids, even for the youngest ones who may not necessarily know exactly what's going on, but they know life is different and they're trying to figure it out. Those 3-year-old twins I mentioned, I see them from 10 feet away with a mask on, and that's certainly different. And they know they can't run up to me and hug me or anybody else that they know and love. Kids know. So we can help them with self-care. Right now, they have so little control and independence that responding is healthier than simply reacting. So if students help create some thinking about how they can care for themselves, they can have greater ownership in that self-care and a greater sense of control. This can be an assignment. Think about what you can do to your curriculum that allows your students to feel a sense of control and even express their thinking and emotions right now. Journaling's one method many teachers are using. And no matter the grade or content area, to allow them to use that connection in their grade level and their content area and connect it with the current COVID-10 virus situation might prove to be extremely valuable. And you can also tie it into your content if you feel the need to. One aspect many children may know about but not totally understand is that this virus is a world community phenomena. That alone gives you a tremendous amount of opportunity to connect in both your own community but globally. You could have digital pen pals or digital book talks with other classrooms, or create a local public service announcement, or create digital inquiries that relate to curriculum from other parts of the state or the country or the world. When we think about brain compatible teaching to build a culture of thinking, we were doing that in the regular classroom, and it's no less important digitally. It's not just that our students are thinking, but we need to continue to make sure they're still involved in metacognition, thinking about their thinking. We want to build a culture of accessing and engaging different parts of the brain when we connect learning and experiences and thinking. We just have to do it differently. We can incorporate even more brain compatible work and ideas. We can continue to consider the ways our students learn and provide those opportunities throughout the learning weeks, just as we did before. Thinking about this, we must also consider our online relationships again with our students. Remember, if they feel safe and have feelings of trust and security and our involvement and connection with them, then any of our instructional techniques are going to be successful. In this way, we continue to honor their lives, provided they're needed opportunities to interact with us and hopefully at some point with their peers, and that keeps them connected to us and to school. Remember, any work and our work for them shares our love and caring. They need that every day. Students need to continue to have the opportunities to have meaningful content, have opportunities for movement that are part of the learning process that can be done at home, have adequate time to learn under the circumstances they are in, have an opportunity to master ideas and concepts, and still importantly, we need to give feedback. We need to make sure that they know they are learning and growing and understanding. That feedback need doesn't change with digital learning. And above all, one of the things we can really do to help our students is give them some choice in what they're going to learn and how they're going to learn it. Again, there's so little they can get to choose right now, so little they have control of. So as always, they do need that confirmation that they're growing and learning, and our continued feedback and our continued opportunities of choice will give them that. That'll give them back some sense of independence, some sense of control, and it will empower them in some ways that little else can right now. And we just have to be the leaders of that transformation. That's our future. That's their future. I love this quote by John Dewey. We do not learn from experience. We learn from reflecting on experience. So as we continue our thinking about a brain compatible classroom digitally and continuing on our thinking more about transformation, we can't forget to incorporate the 4 C's: communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. These can be an integral part of our pedagogy adaptability and creativity, as well as continue the preparation that our students need for support for their readiness upon graduation. And again, this doesn't start in 9th grade. It starts all the way down in kindergarten. Even at digital and homeschooling, in an analogous situation, we can work on a culture of thinking and continue to push our students to inquire, to innovate, to design, no matter our grade or content area. So our creativity as teachers is how they will communicate and collaborate and continue to learn given any digital or other restrictions they might have. And also our creative thinking can include parents and family members that they live with, whom they can communicate and collaborate with while staying safe and following the Indiana mandates and the CDC guidelines. So if you're thinking about transforming your instruction, students again need to have experiences beyond paper and pencil and worksheet style learning. I hear of some teachers passing out packets that parents come by a school and pick up out of a box. That's not transforming learning. That's just worksheets and packets. Allow students to take old assumptions and challenge them. We need, as part of transformational education, to allow students to challenge various perspectives and then have the opportunity to share their own. We need to give students the opportunity to expand their worldview. And now that's an amazingly neat thing to get to do. We need to give students the opportunity to develop the skills and work on that critical self-reflection. We give them feedback, but we want them to challenge their own assumptions, to have some kind of discourse, no matter what form that has to take, and then to feel empowered by taking some kind of action, whether it's completing a project, doing something digitally for their community, whatever your creativity can provide. Teachers of transformational pedagogy provide open-ended questions. They provide the opportunity for new knowledge to be added to students' own life experiences. And they provide the means to interact with their current environment and to adapt. And they support students as they work through this whole process. And they think about that individual growth and support that those students need. So as I'm winding down, I saw this on social media and I just loved what it had to say, because this came from a parent, and this is part of that heart and brain and transformational thinking. Hey teachers, I just wanted to let you know that however these next weeks go down, it's all good. We're on your team. See, I don't care what hardcore academics you teach my kids or what tests they will miss the rest of the semester, and here's why. Just by showing up, just by checking in, by caring enough to do this freaking impossible job, you're already taught them the only things that I really wanted them to get out of school to be ready for the world they're going to live in. You've taught them that people are flexible, they adapt to new things and ways to live. You've taught them that learning can happen anywhere at any time, not just in school. You've taught them that people will show up for them even when it's hard. You've taught them that communities work together for the greater good. You've taught them the world is a good place, that even when circumstances are scary, people really are good. You've taught them that they are loved, no matter the time, place, or limitations. They are worthy of love. And I think many parents would definitely echo that thought. Keep the heart in your teaching. Make the heart the priority. Think about how you can transform teaching to the digital online means that you have. And best of luck. Again, I'd like to thank the Schwab Foundation for providing the grant for us to do this. I want to thank Dr. Wenning and Cindy McKinney. I'd like to thank my teammates, Mike Gorman and Jean Gorman and Laura Smith. We're all working together to provide makerspace education. And I'd like to end with this from Edutopia: relationships before rigor, grace before grades, patience before programs, and love before lessons. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. This was great. I jotted some notes down just to kind of recap what I thought was important in what you shared. I love the idea of looking at this as an opportunity. I used to say you smash the word problem and the word opportunity together and you have problemtunity. And if we look at this as an opportunity, our own mindset can really help us get through the difficult times. I also loved the idea that we are not alone. We can feel very alone in this, but if we reach out to our kids, to our students, and help them, even personally, then we feel like we are helping, and it's actually a help to us and to relieve our stress.
It's kind of the
Telling them that, yeah, telling them that you miss them, another great thing. It feels kind of touchy-feely, but this is an opportunity to get a little more touchy-feely with your kids. And so use it. Look at it as that. I love the idea of practicing online procedures just like you might have practiced classroom procedures. So if you had a classroom and you had procedures in place to make your classroom run smoothly and you practice those procedures, do the same with the online procedures. If kids are having a trouble submitting something to you in a timely fashion, then practice the process. It could be that they just have some glitches. They don't know how to attach it right, or they need a little help with this. So kind of go back to day one on some of this stuff. And then I love your idea of giving students choice, that right now so many of us feel like we have very little control. And if kids have an opportunity to have some choice in what they're learning, that again reduces their level of stress and anxiety. So I really want to thank you for spending some time with us to help us understand a little bit more about what teaching to the heart in the online classroom is. And I look forward to hearing more from you and your colleagues in the near future. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I hope you tune back in because there's more to come. This was just sort of a for us. So.
Exactly. So thank you again to everyone who joined us today, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future.
Thank you.